Okay. Hi and welcome back to the second session of this Open Source Thursday series. Today we're going to be talking about getting started with open source. So if you don't know who I am, if you didn't attend the first session, my name is Husseina Etibalogun, but everybody just calls me Kenny. I'm a beta Microsoft Learn student ambassador at the Federal University of Technology, Akure in Nigeria. I'm a mechanical engineering student about to finish, and I basically do back-end development mostly with space-related project groups. If you want to find me anywhere else, I'm mostly either on TikTok or YouTube with my twin sister. So last session we introduced ourselves to open source. We talked briefly about the freedoms in open source. We talked about the history of open source and the history of open source in Microsoft. But this week we're going to talk about how to find these open source projects that we're talking about, where we can find them, what it means to contribute to open source, like the different types of contributions that you can make, how we can contribute to open source, like what exactly is it that I can do, and then how we can find help when we're stuck. Contributing for the first time is a bit of like a daunting thing, so it's obviously going to be hard at some point. You're going to get stuck, you're going to need help, and most of the time, to a lot of beginner developers or even just tech enthusiasts, we don't know where to find help. So hopefully by the end of the session, you will know where to find help and even how to give other people help when they need it. So the first thing is, where can I find open source projects? Well, GitHub. It's when you're in the tech space, GitHub is a name that you will hear often and often again, and it's because it's so good at what it does, uniting developers and tech enthusiasts, writers, designers to all collaborate from different parts of the world. So basically, when we're talking about open source, it's just a fancy term for treating the world's problems as fixable. So when you have a problem and you have a solution to it, you're like, okay, I think this is how I can solve this. But you only have a certain limit that you can get to. So you decide, okay, let me just upload this onto the internet. Where can I upload it? GitHub is the biggest collection of repositories. GitHub has the largest collection of repositories on the internet, so it only makes sense to upload it to GitHub so that other people can build on what you started and even help you in places that you don't know that you have made some mistakes on. So there are a myriad of ways that you can find projects to contribute on with GitHub. Like GitHub has these tags like first contributors, Hacktoberfest, that you can search up. There are annual competitions that are hosted on GitHub, and obviously the search bar, like whatever it is that you want to contribute to. Let's say you're into agricultural project. You only know Python projects. The search bar is very, very helpful. So having that first contribution can be a daunting task to you as a developer who has never contributed to open source before. So these are some platforms that I found that would help a beginner developer to find open source projects to contribute to. So the first one is open source guides. This series is basically to help us into the open source world, but when we get stuck, open source guides is a website that is basically the 101 for open source. They teach you how to maintain a project, how to start a project, how to contribute, what contributing is. So if ever you're stuck with anything open source guides is your go-to. Then we have Up for Grabs, which maintains a list of open source projects that have been curated specifically to new contributors. So they basically help you find tasks that it would be easy for somebody that's just coming in, that's not too daunting. Then we have Ovio. So Ovio, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Ovio is a community platform that gives you access to lists of projects and issues that match your skills and interests. So basically, you're like, this is what I'm interested in. This is my level of whatever skill it is that you're doing. Like maybe it's design, front end, back end, maybe it's project management. So it basically makes you get lists tailored to what you're good at and what you're interested in. And then Code Triage, basically you sign up to this subscription, and you let them know this is what I'm interested in, and then you get handpicked projects straight to your inbox. Like, isn't that so cool? Like, you don't even have to stress looking for projects. They just send you emails. Like, I don't know if it's weekly or monthly, but they send you emails of projects that would be good for you to contribute to. So basically, they're just like helping you. You don't even have to stress in your sleep. So the last one I put on here is Code Tribute, and it's a website that guides contributors to their first contributions. So it helps you find a project that you want to work with. It helps you learn about that project, and then it helps you find a task that's suitable to your skill, and isn't already assigned to someone else. So obviously when we're talking about the other four up here, they might help you find tasks, right? But most of the time, every new person is going on to what they're interested in. So there might be somebody that's already working on that task, and you might find that, let's say they create a pull request and theirs gets merged instead of yours. You might feel like, oh, I spent so much time on this, I worked so hard. So at least Code Tribute helps in a way that you know for sure that whatever it is that you contribute is definitely going to be seen, and you'll be the first to be like, and you'll be the first to try and create a solution for that task, for that problem. So what does it mean to contribute to open source? We talked a little bit about it last session, but we're gonna talk a bit more deeply now. So when people talk about contributing, people automatically think that you have to code, like you have to learn a language before you can contribute to open source. You have to have a certain skill level in that language, but that's not true at all, because open source has so many different facets that is open to everybody, right? So here's like just a few of the things that you can do to help contribute to open source. Number one, event planning. Open source events are the best way for people to physically meet, or even if it's not physical, you can have virtual events for people to see each other face to face, and see, okay, this is a person that's working on this. This is a group of people that I've been seeing their code names online, and basically to interact with other people within your community or within the project. You can write, you can make articles, you can do technical writing, you can write for, you could do copywriting for the project or the website or whatever. You can design, and design doesn't just mean like the website design or UI UX. There are different types of design that you can do. You can help organize. So this is more going towards like the project management route, helping the maintainers and other contributors know exactly what is going on in the project, helping people understand the purpose of the project, helping streamline where the project is going, where we are now, and what we've done before that we can learn from, basically. And obviously coding. Coding is the go-to, is the number one. When people think of contributing, that's the first thing that they think of anyway, so that one's there. And then helping people. I feel like people don't really, I feel like as a community, we don't talk about helping people enough in open source as like a way into open source. Because when somebody goes into a project, most of the time they don't understand what is going on unless the readme and the documentation is like extremely clear. It's still hard for some people to understand how the project actually works and how they can contribute. So if you are really good at understanding things quickly, you can help create documentation, or even reach out to newbies within the project or community and be like, hey, do you understand where we're going? Do you understand the roadmap of the project? Do you understand what you can do to contribute, what skill sets you have, and how your skills match up with the project that we're doing? So when we think of open source, it's not just software. You can literally collaborate on anything. Like at LibriCube, we're trying to LibriCube is doing a lot, but at LibriCube we're trying to currently build the rovers and the microcontroller boards. So these are hardware things, and obviously we need to buy components, and most of us are in different parts of the world. So we buy these components where we are individually, we test collaboratively, we see, okay, this is working here, this is working here. So it's not just software that you can collaborate on, you can collaborate on hardware, books, recipes, anything basically. So how can you contribute to open source projects? So when we talk about contributing to open source, like I said before, it's not just about coding. There's different ways that you can contribute even as a non-coder. So here are, I just listed 8, but there's a ton. When we look at the previous slide, when I was talking about helping people, writing, designing, just from those alone, you can think of 5 different ways to contribute each. But I'm just going to go through these ones here to help us understand the different ways of contribution. So you can add a description to a project's documentation to elaborate on a certain point. Is a markdown file that basically shows somebody, it's the overview of the project. So once somebody goes to your repository, the README is the first thing that they see. And it's like the CV of the project. Who's working on it, why we're working on it, what does it do, and how other people can work on it. The second one is giving guidance on a specific project and how to use it. So you can create videos on how to use the software. You can create videos on how to contribute. You can create blogs, articles on that specific software, how to build something from the software, or how to contribute to the software, or even whatever the project is. The third one here is adding a sample output to show how the code works. So obviously when we go into a project and we go into the different folders, we're just seeing code after code after code, and it's not always easy to understand what's going on. So having a sample output, it's gonna basically shorten the understanding time of the user or the viewer that's just coming fresh into this project. The next one is writing an in-depth tutorial for the project. For some people that don't have an affinity to video, writing is the next go-to. So like I said before, an article, a blog, anything like that. You can also add a translation for the project. If you know that this project would be if you know that people around you would be very interested in using this project or even contributing to it, and you know that the language and you know that there's a language barrier between the people that you know would be interested and the language that the project is written in, you could be that bridge to guide people to the project and be like, hey, it's okay if you don't understand English, it's okay if you don't understand Spanish, it's okay if you don't understand French, you can also contribute to this project. You can also answer questions on places like Stack Overflow or Reddit. You can offer mentorship to other contributors, and you can fix typos and arrange the folders correctly. And not just correctly, but like in a way that the organizational hierarchy is easier to understand for everybody. So, how do I find help when stuck in open source? So, getting stuck is part of being a programmer, no matter the level. The so-called easy problem is actually pretty hard. You're not exactly sure how to move forward. When what you thought would work doesn't, here are some things you can do. So you can pair with another programmer if you know somebody that is versed or skilled or competent to the level that you're working on. You can ask that person, whether it's somebody that you know in person or even if it's somebody that you know on LinkedIn. You can reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm stuck on this, can you help me? Even if it's your favorite YouTuber, most of the time people are willing and happy to help. But I feel like the best people to I feel like the best people to ask first would be the best people to ask would be the maintainers of the project or other contributors within the project, so that at least we all have this ground footing of we're all part of this project that we all kind of semi-understand. The next thing you could do is ask on Quora or Reddit or Stack Overflow. Those are like Stack Overflow, Reddit, Quora. I think that's like the hierarchy, the 1, 2, 3 of the best places for when you're stuck during programming. And I feel like it's also good for even if you're doing design or writing. I feel like for writing, Medium would be a good place to go to. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So then the next thing would be to learn how to Google. I feel like we know that Googling is a thing. Like if you get stuck on anything, just Google it. But some people don't know how to effectively Google it in a way that you get the information that you need as quick as possible without having to sift through all the other Google articles that aren't relevant. So learning how to Google is a must. Then blogs like Medium, Dev2, and when I was talking about reaching out to people earlier, like on LinkedIn, Twitter is also a great place because Twitter is a hub for tech people generally. So it's obviously a great place to reach out to people and ask, hey, I'm stuck on this. You'll get a bunch of people ready to help. You'll also get a bunch of people probably like, how come you don't know that? But just take it as it is and, learn from the things that people are teaching you. Gitter is a messaging platform that has over 1 million developers on it. So when you're stuck on something, you can instantly message someone and be like, hey, I need help with this. Can you please help me? And people are always ready to help. Then we have DevPal, which is another platform, but it has the people on that platform have a higher level of expertise. So they're more likely to have the answers for more like complex things that you're stuck on. And that is the end of this session. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, or I think you can comment down below. And I will definitely see the questions and answer them. Next session, we're going to be talking about finding a community within open source. We're going to be looking at places to find your interest-related projects, how to join communities, and how to contribute within a community. And I'm going to be joined by another Microsoft Learn student ambassador. I'm not going to say who the person is yet. You're going to be surprised and you're going to love it. So I can't wait to see you guys at the next session. And I can't wait for the other person to join me.